Do we have historical evidence to prove that Jesus actually lived? Did he die on a cross? What about the disciples? Did they have experiences which they believed were literal appearances of the risen Jesus? You've got 4, Dr. Habermas, that you have said out of the 12 that you presented in our last segment that all contemporary or all critical scholars would basically agree with these facts. There's a ton of evidence. We need some of that evidence, but first of all, what are the facts?
Well, what I did, John, from this list of 12 facts surrounding the, from, let's say, Friday to Sunday in the life of Jesus traditionally, I've taken 4. Now, it's an arbitrary number because, to my knowledge, nobody will grant you, nobody would give you as few as 4. I mean, Rudolf Bultmann probably gives you 20 from this last week, you know, half a week in Jesus' life. But what I've done is I think there are 4 facts out of the 12 that do 3 things. First of all, I think that these, couple other of 12 facts, but these in particular, you can refute the major naturalistic theories using nothing but the data surrounding these facts. Secondly, you've got the best evidences for the resurrection here. And third, you're doing all of it with a very small kernel of historical data. So you're not requiring the Gospels or this or that. This all comes from Paul.
Okay, what are they? What are the facts?
Well, the first one is that Jesus died according, due to the rigors of crucifixion. Secondly, that the disciples had experiences that they believed were appearances of the risen Jesus. Thirdly, their lives were changed. They were transformed. They undeniably believed that Jesus saw them and they turned the world upside down. And fourthly, a man named Paul, as we've discussed, a skeptic, a critic who killed Christians and imprisoned them, came to Christ by an experience that he believed.
All right, now Tony next to you would be saying that, hey, if you're not a Christian, some of those facts, or Tony, you tell them. Would you agree with all those facts?
Yes, I think I would.
Okay.
But these literal appearances, I'm very much a sympathizer of the Thomas, who appears very late, really, in the Gospel story, with doubts as to whether there is an actual physical body there. And as far as I can see, there's nothing said to say that he actually did put his hands in and find it. He's told he ought to do, and then it's reported that then Jesus is reported as saying that he had seen, rather than that he had actually felt the body.
Gary, what do you think?
Well, he tells Thomas to touch him. Tony's right. John does not tell us that Thomas touched him. I would add the following, though. Ignatius, just perhaps 10 years after the Gospel of John, 107 AD, Ignatius says at that point that Thomas did touch him. Be that as it may, we've got 2 earlier accounts of women touching Jesus from the Gospels. One is the women as a whole who take Jesus by the ankles in Matthew 28:9. And we've got the case of Mary Magdalene, who comes back alone, and she thinks he's the gardener, and she turns around and sees him, and she knows it's him, and he says, "Stop clinging to me." So I get this picture of Mary holding him for all she's worth. So we have the women touching him, Mary touching him, and at least Ignatius says Thomas touched him.